Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news you so love. I'm Ace Edwards, right alongside
Connor Baltazar.
And this has been, Connor and I were talking about this before the episode, literally 5 seconds before the episode, but this is probably one of the best weeks for K-State sports, specifically in the basketball realm, that we've covered in quite some time. But we are going to start off with the women's basketball team before going into the men's team. But before we start, as always, we do have someone to thank, and that is Grandma. Thank you, Grandma.
Thank you, Grandma.
But let's just dive straight into the women's basketball team, where they had the first leg of the Sunflower Showdown up against the University of Kansas in Lawrence, and it wasn't even close. K-State firmly shellacked KU in Allen Fieldhouse, 91-64. KU only won the fourth quarter, and that was sort of when we took our foot off the gas, and they only won it by 2. And it always feels good to win in Allen Fieldhouse, which is a very rare sight because, I don't know, that maybe there might be a portal to hell located under Allen Fieldhouse. I don't know. But it's always good to get a victory of any kind, but especially in a rivalry game.
Yeah, I mean, this was a true Sunflower beatdown. I mean, this game was made it was made kind of close at the end of the first quarter because KU went on a little run. But really after that point, we took pretty firm control. And then the third quarter was one of the most dominant quarters of the entire season for K-State. They won that one 30-13. Just an absolute offensive explosion came in that third quarter. Jalen Glenn, in particular, I think had a really good third quarter. But this women's basketball team in general has had really good third quarters this season, which I do think is probably a sign of really good coaching. But yeah, this game was hardly ever competitive, and frankly, even though we won by 27, the score looks closer than the game actually was because of KU putting up 26 in that fourth quarter because, I mean, really, but we probably should have won by closer to 40. But KU hit it was 3 3-pointers in the final 2 minutes. So they made this one look a lot closer than it really was.
Yeah. So in other words, they stacked on garbage time points.
Yes.
I'll cover the starters for this one because, I mean, the next games, one of the starters had perhaps one of the – okay, well, there goes something that was on my desk. Had perhaps one of the most impactful performances that we've seen in the history of this show. And granted, it's not the 61 game, but it's still up there. But for this KU game, Jalen Glenn was the leading scorer and also the leading story of this game, where she played 29 minutes, 7 of 10 from the field, 5 of 8 from 3, 2 rebounds, 1 foul, 4 assists, and a steal for 19 total points. So Jalen Glenn was excellent by pretty much every single metric, except for a relatively small amount of steals for her standards. But then again, she still got one. So we'll count that. But Zai Walker played 27 minutes, 6 of 9 from the field, 1 of 1 from 3, 3 rebounds, 3 fouls, 4 assists, 2 turnovers, a block, 2 steals, and 13 points. We'll give her stuffing the stat sheet, even though she didn't get a free throw, because we take those. But Tamira Poindexter, 28 minutes, 4 of 8 from the field, but 3 of 3 from 3, 1 of 2 on her free throws, 3 total rebounds, 3 fouls, 1 turnover, 2 steals for 12 total points. Then Kennedy Taylor, 11 minutes, 2 of 5 from the field, 4 of 4 from the free throw line, 1 rebound, 1 foul, 1 assist, 1 block, 1 steal, 8 total points. And then Serena Sundell had her quietest performance of the year up to this point, I believe. It's definitely up there, where she only played 22 minutes, 3 of 3 from the field, 1 of 1 from 3, missed her 1 free throw, got a rebound, 3 fouls, 5 assists, 4 turnovers for 7 total points. So leading story has to be Jalen Glenn. But Zy Walker sort of knocked off a little bit of the rust in this game because she's been up and down. And I think that just kind of comes with being a relatively young player. I mean, relatively. Is she a true sophomore or a redshirt sophomore?
She's a redshirt sophomore.
Okay. So, maybe young isn't the right word, but still sort of getting her feet under her. But, you can't say much when you're getting 3 double-digit scorers in your starting 5.
Yeah, Serena, definitely not her best game, but she had some early foul trouble, and then she took a hard shot to the abdomen in the fourth quarter, and so we just subbed her out of the game, and she didn't come back. I assume if the game had been closer, we would have put her back in because she always seems to do better after getting injured, but that was just not necessary in this game. This was a pretty thoroughly dominant performance from the starting lineup. But the bench players also, for the most part, had themselves some really good games too. And we'll get started here with Taryn Sides, who led the bench scoring, and played 32 minutes. So despite coming off the bench, Taryn actually did play the most minutes out of anybody in this game, which is kind of unusual. But she went 5 of 10 from the field, 4 of 9 from 3. So she finished with 14 points, had 4 rebounds, 3 fouls, 8 assists. So she was flirting with a double-double, and then just 2 turnovers and a steal. So really, really great game for Taryn Sides. If not for Jalen Glenn catching fire herself and finishing with 19, Taryn may have been the story of this game. But she already got story of the game against Iowa State, so she can't have them all. But Eliza Maupin, she played really well. 19 minutes, 3 of 3 from the field, 2 of 2 on her free throw, so 8 points for her. 4 rebounds, 1 foul, 2 assists, 3 blocks, and a steal. So only turnover away from stuffing the stat sheet, but I think I'm mostly going to count positive statistics towards stuffing the stat sheet. So I'm gonna say that absolutely counts. But 3 blocks for Eliza was big. K-State had like 5 blocks in like the first 5 minutes of this game, and like I remember them showing that graphic where they were like, K-State season average as a team for blocks per game is like 6.1, and we had like 5 in like the first like 5 minutes, but we only had 1 more the rest of the game. So I'm not sure what happened there. I assume KU probably just adjusted to us swatting everything, which you would hope. But Gisela Sanchez played 21 minutes, 3 of 6 from the field, 1 of 1 from 3, 7 points for her. 5 rebounds, 1 foul, 1 assist, 1 turnover, and 1 block. Then rounding out the bench players, Amani Lester, she played 11 minutes, 1 of 3 from the field, 1 of 2 at the free throw line, so 3 points for 5 rebounds and an assist. So not a stellar line for Amani, but not a bad line. Not bad whatsoever. But honestly, a pretty decent bench production across the board. And I think maybe the biggest thing to say about the bench production is that there was no one that was like an active liability when it comes to their stat lines at the very least. So that's always a good thing to have. But I still think that there is one stat team-wide that I think does tell the ultimate story of this game, and it is our three-point shooting percentage. K-State finished this game shooting 65% from 3, 15 of 23, which is just absolutely absurd. I mean, like Jalen Glenn obviously is like the one that everybody's talking about from this game because she really did catch fire in that third quarter. But everybody was shooting well from 3 in this game. I mean, anytime you shoot like even 40% from 3, that's pretty good. As a team, it's really good even, but 65% is just nuts. The offensive efficiency just off the charts in this game for K-State. One of the better offensive games really in the entire Jeff Mittie era in this one. So huge kudos for going into Allen and not losing a step.
We've come a long way from 0 of 21.
Yeah, that is actually worth mentioning where One of the losses that we had in Allen a couple of years ago, we won like 1 of 24 or something from 3, and the only make I think was like a Laura Mackey bank in 3,
Yep.
something like that. So I don't remember if it was a bank or not, but point is, it was really bad. But this game, totally different, completely flipped the script.
Yep.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, and we needed that victory to sort of give ourselves momentum going into the next game, which was K-State up against TCU in Bramlage Coliseum. Connor and I were at this game. Apparently, I was caught at some point in 4K screaming a lung out. Allegedly. I know it happened, as in the screaming. I just didn't know I was on camera. So congratulations myself, I guess. But this is Connor and I had this discussion immediately after the game, and I don't think we came to a consensus, but we said that this was inarguably a top 3 game in the Midi era in Bramlage. Like, this is a top 3, almost inarguably top 2 win.
Yeah, I mean, there's been several really memorable games in the Jeff Midi era. I mean, obviously, beating Caitlin Clark in Iowa is a big one. That Iowa State game from the same year was really fantastic, too. K-State taking down a ranked Oregon team was a big one. Texas last year, honestly, was a really big one, too. Yoki's 61-point game. Those are just really the recent examples. But this game, I think, at the very least, gets very close, if not surpasses them, if for no other reason than I think the stakes were way higher in this game than most of those other ones. Like Yoki's 61 points, like an unparalleled personal achievement. Like that game's going to be remembered regardless of the result of the game, because I mean, Aoki set a NCAA record, beating Caitlin Clark. Like that's incredible. We did it twice, but this game meant so much for this team for the rest of the season. So it's going to definitely go down as an all-timer for women's basketball in Bramlage.
Yeah, and the environment was really, really good as well. It's undoubtedly the best environment that I've seen at a women's basketball game, or at least an environment that I've been a part of. Because even with the Oregon game, I think we were one of, like, maybe, being generous, we were maybe one of 75 to 100 students at that Oregon game. The Caitlin Clark Iowa game and Bramlage was, I think, immediately after a men's game. So a lot of people kind of cleared out from that. This one, the crowd was fully engaged the entire time, and we're especially good at bullying one domestic abuser. So, and I want to point out that we're not saying this as like to minimize domestic abuse. We're doing it to sort, not necessarily as a public service, but to just say that Sedona Prince is a bad human being.
Yeah, like that's the extent of the message, I think. But no, I agree. This has got to be among the better environments. I can't remember if we hosted UConn when Midi was the coach or not, but that game did actually sell out. I just don't remember exactly when it was, but it's been a while since that game. But I've heard that game had a pretty incredible atmosphere, and I'm not super familiar with some of the older atmospheres, but I know that Bramlage actually did sell out pretty often in the early 2000s with the Oldie and Wecker teams. But yeah, the environment, despite announced attendance being, I think it was 7,700, it really was incredibly loud and at times deafening in the arena. And I think it goes to show that sometimes not as many people, having not as many people won't matter if those people are engaged. And I think that's something that Midi said after the game. It was a really engaged crowd, which I agree with. But yeah, awesome crowd that they really deserved. I'm hoping that this will lead to some even bigger ones, because the only thing this game had going against it is it was a Wednesday night, which that is rough news for getting people over from Kansas City. Luckily, the KU game that's coming up will be a weekend game, though, so that actually is a chance for a sellout.
But we've sort of talked about the surrounding the game, but I think it's time to talk about the starters. And good Lord.
Yeah, we'll start with the obvious MVP and somebody who, with this game, I think has maybe earned themselves a spot in the rafters among K-State legends, and is probably putting themselves into the Big 12 Player of the Year conversation as well. I don't know if she'll come away with it because I worry about there being too many casual voters that are just going to look at stat lines. But she should at least be in the running, and that's Serena Sundell. She was just absolutely incredible. She was the reason that we put this game away late. Played 38 minutes, 11 of 21 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3, and then 4 or 5 on her free throws. So 27 for Serena Sundell in this game. That was a battle for first place in the conference. So when it mattered most, she stepped up on the offensive end. She added 6 rebounds. She only had 1 foul, then had 4 assists to 4 turnovers. This was not the night for Serena to be a distributor and a pass first point guard. This was the night to put her in isolation and just let her be stronger and better than anyone they put against her. They tried a few different defenders against her, and the last attempt that they had, they put their all-star, all-American Haley Van Lith, the Olympian, on her, and Serena just took her to school, and she never stood a chance. And it was incredible to watch those last few possessions for K-State on offense, where the second that Serena started backing down her defender, you pretty much just knew it was going to be a bucket for K-State because she was completely on fire to end this game.
Yeah, there's nothing more to say about the Serena Sundell other than it was a massive effort, and you said it best, where eventually it was coming out of a timeout, and I looked at you and I said, all right, so is this Serena ISO ball or random Gisela corner 3? We ended up seeing both at a different point in the game, but that one was Serena ISO ball.
Yeah, and then we also, I do want to point out one moment where TCU did make a defensive adjustment, but we were absolutely ready for it because we had Tamira there on the wing. She made probably maybe the biggest shot of the game to push it to, I think that put it to 2 possessions at 55-50 late in the fourth quarter. So, despite Serena's incredible performance, it may have been an assist, may have been her biggest play. Really, really great stuff for Serena to not get tunnel vision and be ready to adjust on the fly. Just goes to show just what an incredible player she is. But yeah, this year has been the year of, appreciate Ayoka Lee, but don't forget to appreciate Serena Sundell because there are 2 legends on this K-State team. But with that, with all the flowers out of the way, we can get into another player who played really, really well and does get a bit overshadowed by Serena, but she was fantastic in her own right, and that's Jalen Glenn. 6 of 7 from the field, 2 of 2 from 3. So she finished with 14 points in this one. Had a few really big shots, I think in the third quarter, to get us back in the game because we ended the first half on kind of a dull note. But she had a few jumpers to start the second half, and that really brought the energy back into the game for K-State. But she also had 4 rebounds, a foul, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, and then 4 steals. So she was back to vintage Jalen Glenn on the defensive end, which the K-State defense is a whole other topic that we need to talk about at some point during this. So don't let me forget that. We can talk about that whenever we get through the rest of the box score. But Tamira Poindexter, 27 minutes in this one, 4 of 9 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3, including that big one. It was kind of the dagger in the heart of TCU. 9 points for 1 rebound, 1 foul, 2 turnovers, and 2 steals for Tamira. So all around, a big game, and she made some really big shots when they mattered most. She had a big layup in the fourth quarter as well, where it was kind of a Serena-esque play where she just out-physicaled her defender. So she deserves a lot of credit for that. Ziona Walker did not have a great offensive day, just 1 of 9 from the field, 0 of 1 from 3, 0 of 1 on her free throws in 23 minutes, just 2 points for her, but 4 rebounds, and then she added a couple of steals as well. And when she was on the floor, was generally playing decent defense. She also drew a big foul at one point on a rebound, where I can't remember who it was that fouled her, if it was Prince or not. But
I think it was Prince.
Yeah, which I think that would have been her 4th at that point. So that was huge when she was able to draw that. Rounding out the starting lineup, Kennedy Taylor, 13 minutes for 0 of 1 from the field, 5 rebounds, 2 fouls, 2 assists, and a steal. We didn't need Kennedy Taylor to play offense in this game. We just needed her to be one of the warm bodies that we put on Sedona Prince to try and minimize her impact. And for what it's worth, K-State did a fantastic job against Sedona Prince in this game. But we did a decent job against Audi Crooks, but she still got hers. Sedona Prince was really minimized for the most part in this game. So huge shout out to the defensive scheming there. But I'll let you talk about the bench players now, and then we can probably give some more general thoughts about this game because, it took me a while to fall asleep last night because I was still kind of buzzing from this one.
Yeah, we can wax poetic about the general defense because there are a few stats to bring out as well. But first woman off the bench was Taryn Sides, who played 21 minutes, 2 of 6 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3. Granted, a few of those were desperation shots late in the shot clock. Did somehow get 4 rebounds, 2 fouls, 1 assist, 1 turnover, and a steal on 4 total points. I will fight someone over the 1 foul. Like she should have had 1 foul. I'll give you that. That second foul that she somehow, quote unquote, fouled Sedona Prince, who is literally a foot taller and also a criminal, right next to her. I don't think that Taryn Sides deserved that foul. Free her. She did nothing. Lock the other one up, though. But then Gisela Sanchez played 23 minutes, 1 of 4 from the field, but that was a really, really big 3, which she was 1 of 3 from 3. 2 rebounds, 2 assists, including one of the best passes that I've ever seen her make, because I guess 1 turnover, 1 steal for 3 total points. Gisela will get her own mention when we talk about the defense, trust me. And then Eliza Maupin played 12 minutes, 0 of 1 from the field. They don't register it as a 3, but maybe the angle we had was bad. It looked like a 3.
I went back and watched, and that was not a 3. Okay. In fact, she was like several feet in front of the 3-point line, but no, you and I, we both thought that was a 3 from where we were sitting. We were like, why is Eliza taking a 3 when there's like not 0.1 seconds left on the shot clock? I mean, you do you, Queen, but like, I'm just surprised is all.
But she also had 2 rebounds, 4 fouls. She collected the majority of her fouls very, very quickly. I believe she got whistled twice within like a minute of one another, which, okay. And then a block and a steal for 0 points. And then Amani played 6 minutes, 0 of 2 from the free throw line. Did pick up a foul, but played admirable defense up against Sedona Prince. And now we can talk about the defense for this game. And I want to give one person in particular their flowers because she's caught a number of strays on this show and on the internet. But you know what? Gisela Sanchez played her soul out this game and made one of the most important shots of the game and somehow held her own against a terrible human being, but also one of the best post players in the country. That's genuinely very impressive from Gisela. So I want to give her flowers first and foremost.
Yeah, she's taken not even some strays. She's taken some direct hits from this podcast on a few occasions. But no, her defense was fantastic because physically she's completely overmatched against Sedona Prince. But when she was in the game, particularly late, nothing was getting past her. That was some incredibly high effort defense. She did a great job. Really, all the bigs across the entire team were phenomenal in hedging screens. They were so good at not letting the TCU guards get a drive off the ball screen. They forced them out into the backcourt. Eliza is particularly good at that, but we expect that from her. She's a gazelle. But Kennedy was really great in that department. Amani was good at it. Gisela was fantastic with that late in the game. So they deserve a huge shout out for that part of the game plan. And shout out to the backside defenders as well on those for being able to cover Sedona Prince, but then get back out to the wing more often than not to run their three-point shooters off the line. I mean, the defensive game plan for this game was about as close to perfect as it can get, I think. And the execution was unbelievable. I mean, a couple times the press broke down, but for how aggressive a press we ran, it did not break down as much as you would think. Like, major kudos to the defense. I mean, this was a stat that you and I heard leaving the game on, I think it was post-game radio, I think. Or at the very least, I heard I can't remember where I heard this.
It was Twitter, and I was reading Twitter.
That's what it was, I think. It was TCU's averaged like 81 points a game in conference play and like 76 points per game on the road this season, and we held them to 50. It does not get much better than that. I mean, K-State, our defensive rating, according to Bartorvik's advanced analytics, was a 62.4, which is the second best in Big 12 play and is one of the best that we have had the entire season. For reference, we had a worse defensive rating against Little Rock. Not by much, because we only gave up 43 in that game. But, I mean, just incredible stuff, man. The defensive effort and the defensive buy-in, like this team makes defense genuinely really fun. And like, it's so obvious that they practice it so much, and they care about it so much. And it's for moments like this game where defense absolutely won K-State this game.
Yeah. And for as rough as Zai was on the offensive end of the floor, when she was on Haley Van Lith, nothing. It simply was not going to happen for Haley Van Lith. In fact, I think I can't verify this, but I think the vast majority of Haley Van Lith's points came far later into the game whenever we had not Zai Walker on her.
Yeah, so I can't verify that either, but it definitely felt like she was scoring a bit more late. I think what it was with her, I think she had like 10 or 11 and a half, but she at one point in the second half, she kind of had a stretch where she had a few tough shots back to back or something like that. I think you're right.
Yeah. But this was just a huge victory for K-State, and it puts them firmly in first place in the Big 12 race. So, you know, to quote Scott Wildcat, top of the 12, having a laugh, but words cannot say how important this victory was for K-State. But the next matchups for the K-State Wildcats are up against Oklahoma State this Saturday in Stillwater, which feels like that's a scary game. That's one that, you know, you're coming off of a top 10 victory. You're like, uh-oh. And Oklahoma State's a salty, good team in Stillwater. So that's one of those where you're kind of sweating it a little bit. But then after that is Cincinnati and
UCF is the next game after that.
Yeah, and then UCF. So go out, support the women's team because damn if they don't deserve it. But now we can talk about the men's team, which you could make a pretty convincing argument that they actually had the bigger win. In fact, I don't think it's an argument. I think it's just a fact that the men's team actually had a bigger win in a week where the women's team had a top 10 victory in an all-time classic game. And that is the K-State men's team going to Ames, Iowa, in a place that has notoriously been a house of horrors for us up to this point, with a rabid, hostile, corn-loving fan base who probably haven't bathed in the last 6 months. And we end up going there and winning by 19. I can't say I had this on my bingo card. In fact, I fully expected us to get smoked going into this game.
Yeah, I had zero expectations going into this game. And Iowa State got out to like an early 13-4 lead. It was yet another slow start for K-State on the road. But no, I think you're right. I think like absent the context of the Big 12 race, this is like objectively a better win than K-State over TCU just because of how long the odds were. And also Iowa State, they had won 29 straight home games going into this game, and we didn't just break that streak, we destroyed that streak. I mean,
and then broke our own streak of not being able to win on the road.
Yeah, like this game, like there was pretty much no chance of K-State winning this game. Like if you'd asked a computer to simulate this game 100 times, K-State probably wins one of those games. And we found the one situation where K-State wins because they snapped their 15-game road losing streak, which is just horrid, going all the way back to last year against West Virginia, which I think was a game where Dorian Finister had like 8 or 10 or something like that.
Oh my God.
But no, this game against Iowa State, incredible. And it wasn't just Iowa State laying down and dying. Iowa State fought back many times, but K-State had big shot after big shot in this game, and just like kept absorbing punches and delivering counter punches. This was a really fun version of K-State to watch. And I hope that we continue to get this version of K-State because it was a lot of fun to watch this game.
Yeah. But I got you for the starters. Starting off with Doug McDaniel, 34 minutes, 8 of 17 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3, 1 of 2 on his free throws, 2 rebounds, 3 fouls, 5 assists, 5 turnovers, 1 steal, 20 points. And engaged Doug McDaniel is so damn fun. I really wish we'd seen it earlier, but I'm happy it's here now. But next up is someone who's arguably pretty much always been engaged outside of like the first 4-ish games of the year. Because that's one thing I will not hear about Coleman Hawkins was that man always was trying. It's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate that everyone else kind of wasn't at the beginning of the season. But Coleman Hawkins played 39 minutes, 5 of 10 from the field, perfect 3 of 3 from 3, 4 of 4 on his free throws, 7 rebounds, 4 fouls, 3 assists, 1 turnover, 1 block, 4 steals, 17 total points. So a true stuffing of the stat sheet for Coleman Hawkins, which from now on we may just call it the Coleman Hawkins Award because he's done this like 6 times at this point. But yeah, go ahead. Did you have any?
No, I was just gonna say yep.
Yeah. Yep.
That's it.
Brendan Howson also played 31 minutes, 2 of 6 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3, perfect 9 of 9 on his free throw attempts, 4 rebounds, 2 fouls, 1 assist, 1 turnover, 3 steals for 15 total points. Max Jones played 35 minutes, 5 of 10 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, 7 rebounds, 4 fouls, 2 assists, 4 turnovers, 1 steal, 12 points. And then finally, the lovely David Gasson, 31 minutes, 4 of 7 from the field, 2 of 4 from the free throw line, 8 rebounds, 3 fouls, 1 assist, 3 turnovers, 3 blocks, 2 steals for 10 points. We'll give him the stuffed stat sheet, even without a 3-point attempt, because Dave has been a good noodle and he deserves it. But all 5 starters go to double figures in a very hostile environment, and everyone looked engaged, which that's really all it took.
Yeah, I mean, the starters absolutely carried this game for K-State. I mean, like, if you wanted to, like, criticize K-State at all in this game, it'd be that the bench production was not very good. But any game that you win by 19, if your bench production isn't that good, like, that's more of a nitpick than anything. It's something worth noting and keeping an eye on for future games, because K-State is going to have moments where they need a lot more out of their bench. But this game, they were able to really get away with it for the most part. And Hassan in particular, I just want to mention a couple of threes that he hit were just so big. He had one that was from about 30 feet that was also a really good pass from Doug McDaniel, cross court over the shoulder. And Hassan just absolutely drilled it. And there's a clip in, I think, K-State's recap video of it where Hassan's putting his hand up to his ear to the Iowa State crowd. And then a single, like, middle-aged man gets up and, like, very visibly gives him the finger. And I don't know. He gets so mad at Brendan Hassan. He's just doing this thing, the armadillo assassin. But that's a next game thing.
Yeah, but it's his new name. So
then I also want to point out another one in particular. Iowa State was making another run, and David Gasson got the ball and threw a pass that, like, was about as perfect as it gets, because you always want to get it into somebody's shooting pocket so you can, like, get right into their shot. But Dave passed it into, like, where Hassan already has the ball up. So Hassan never even brought the ball down. So he just catches it, like, kind of right up by his head where he's going to be shooting it, and then just pushes it forward. Like, that's about as smooth as it gets from a pass to shot standpoint. And, like, I spent a lot of time thinking about that, and every time I do, it makes me smile because it was just so fun to watch that. But yeah, this is a particularly angry and energized Iowa State crowd because of the incidents from last year. So this was one that I think felt especially good for Coach Tang and the rest of the team because of just how badly Iowa State wanted this game, even among, like, other things. But no, this is just such a huge win. But getting into the bench players, not a ton to say here. Moby Kegaruka played 7 minutes, 1 of 2 from the field, made both of his free throw attempts. So 4 points for him, three rebounds, 2 of them were offensive rebounds, then 1 foul. So Moby put in some big minutes for K-State. CJ Jones, really, he had a pretty rough game. I think he's maybe gotten a little bit too harsh of criticism from this game. I think the criticism has gotten a little out of control on CJ. Now, I'm not saying that because I think he had a good game. I think it's just because his especially bad moments were at the worst possible time because he had a step back three in a moment where we definitely did not need a step back three with like 20 seconds on the shot clock. And then he went down and immediately got his 5th personal foul on a very bad foul. And that just wasn't really what we needed in that situation, CJ. But I'm not saying that to say he had a good game otherwise. He really didn't. But 14 minutes, 1 of 5 from the field, 0-3 from 3. 3 rebounds. He fouled out, and only 2 points for him. So nothing great there. Ugo Onienso played 6 minutes, 0-1 from the field. I think he missed a dunk, if I remember correctly. I may be misremembering that. But he did have 1 block. And David Castillo played 3 minutes, had a turnover, and honestly looked completely lost, so we didn't see him again after his first entrance to the game. But yeah, it was like we said earlier. This was a starter's day, and Moby. I guess Moby was playable when he was on the floor.
Good job, Moby. But from the biggest win of the year against a top 3 team at the time to a sweaty against a a pretty bad Arizona State squad. K-State manages to win up against Arizona State in Tempe. I believe it's Tempe. Yeah, because Tucson is where Arizona
I always get them mixed up as well.
Yeah.
And also for a long time, I thought that Arizona was in Scottsdale, which is just not the case. So, but no,
I think they have a satellite campus there.
Maybe that's what it was. I don't know why I would have known that, but that might be what it was.
But K-State manages, and this is a true definition of escape with a victory up against Arizona State. And I believe is this the game where they kept the lead by virtue of like 2 bricked free throws at the very end?
Yes, this game ended. I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you probably watched the game, but this game also was really late. So there may actually be people that didn't see the end of the game, because this game didn't start until 9 p.m. Central. But the end of the game, K-State had the ball, and even though Doug had himself actually a pretty decent game, he took an ill-advised 3 on that last possession with like 14 seconds left on the clock. Arizona State gets the ball and they're pushing up the floor, but Coleman Hawkins is trailing and he's like trying to be sneaky, but he's also 6'10". But it almost worked, and he literally full on extends and dives to knock the ball loose. It works, and like the entire K-State team is on the ground trying to get the ball, but it bounces perfectly right back to the guy who had it. He passes it to Arizona State's Jaden Quaintance, who has a completely wide open lane to go in for a dunk. The only K-State player that is able to do anything about it is David Gasson. He's behind him, and Dave, with the greatest foul of the season, fouled Quaintance on the way up, and he misses the dunk, and then Quaintance bricks both free throws. This was a great foul because going into that, he was already 1 of 4 from the line on the day. So this was not like a random occurrence. He was known to be bad at free throws. So fantastic, crazy end to this game. And also it was just a weird game in general where Arizona State was up like 18-2 at one point. K-State then led at halftime.
Yeah. They led like 18-2 with like 10 minutes left in the first.
K-State then just went on an absolute tear to end the half. And then they at one point led by like 12, 13, 14, something like that. Arizona State pushed it all the way back, and K-State was able to just hang on at the end. So even though this was a game against 2 teams battling to be 500 at a 9 p.m. like Tuesday night, it was ended up being a very entertaining basketball game, despite the start being particularly horrible.
Seriously, that possibly the greatest foul of David Gasson's career.
It probably was. It genuinely saved the game, because if he doesn't get that foul, there would have only been, I think, probably like 3 seconds left. And I don't think the clock the clock might have stopped. I can't remember if it does or doesn't in those situations. But point is we would have had to go full court and not a lot of time, and we almost certainly would not have made the shot, and we would have lost by 1. And the mood would be a lot different right now.
Yeah. But you have the starters for this one.
Yeah. So this was another game where the starters really carried the day for K-State. David Gasson, in particular, was the leader here. 36 minutes, 8 of 11 from the field. He made a 3 as well, 1 of 1 from 3. And he had we had a possession where he got the ball in the corner with, I think, about 4 or 5 seconds left on the shot clock. So there just wasn't enough time to do anything. So he put up a 3, and it was perfect. It didn't like clunk around or anything. It was a swish. So he drilled a huge 3. So finished with 22 points in this one. 5 of 6 from the free throw line as well for Dave. Absolutely massive. Then he had 8 rebounds, 4 of them on offense, 3 fouls, and 1 turnover. Really great game for David Gasson. He also had like half court lob from Brendan Hassan at one point in the game, which was really great too. So David Gasson was player of the game, particularly with that foul at the end, kind of saving the day. But Max Jones is another guy who had a fantastic game, and he's had a really incredible stretch here the last few weeks for K-State. He's kind of been the X factor of this winning streak for K-State because he's been a really reliable scorer, honestly. 34 minutes, 6 of 12 from the field, 3 of 7 from 3. So 15 points for Max, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, just 1 turnover, and 2 steals as well for Max. So really big game for Max Jones. And then Brendan Hassan, who ultimately ended up kind of being the social media hero of this game, despite David Gasson probably being the MVP of the game. The announcers in this game were everyone has a different skill level, and they kept calling Brendan Hassan the Armadillo Assassin. His nickname is actually the Amarillo Assassin, but I think at this point it actually is the Armadillo Assassin. Like that is kind of, it's taken on a life of its own. I mean, the announcers also say K-State was wearing blue at one point. It was just generally, they weren't having a great time.
Yeah. I remember last year, it's the same announcer that did the Tyler Perry, he's wet.
Oh, yeah. Was it really?
Yes.
Oh, man. Yeah, that guy definitely struggles. But the Hassan, 4 of 8 from 3, had some really big shots in this one. 12 points for him, 4 rebounds, 2 fouls, only 1 assist, and it was a half-court lob on the money to David Gasson. So if you're only gonna have 1 assist, you might as well make it look cool. And then just 1 turnover for him. So a good day for Brendan Hassan. Coleman Hawkins, he played 35 minutes, 4 of 11 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. Some really big, timely shots from Coleman as well. 1 of 2 at the free throw line, so 11 points for him. 6 rebounds, 1 foul, 7 assists, 2 3 turnovers, and a steal. So a well-rounded game for Coleman. No blocks in this one, but otherwise really, really good stuff. And then Doug McDaniel rounds out the starting lineup. His shooting stats weren't great, but I don't think they really encapsulate just how good of a game he had. 38 minutes for Doug, 3 of 10 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3, 1 of 2 at the free throw line. So only 7 points, but he had 8 rebounds, 2 fouls, and then 9 assists, 2 4 turnovers, and a steal. So he was not only flirting with a double-double, he was flirting with a triple-double. And he was closer to a double-double with rebounds and assists than he was with points and rebounds or points and assists. So a really fantastic game for Doug. He did a great job running the offense in this one. Not an efficient shooting day or scoring day for him, but he otherwise was really effective in this game and deserves a lot of credit for just how good he's been. And he also did get called for a technical foul at one point, but that was because according to the radio broadcast, at one point I muted the announcers and I just started listening to Wyatt instead and synced them with the broadcast. A player for Arizona State allegedly slapped Doug McDaniel away from the ball, like just elected to do it, like completely unprovoked. Doug had something to say back, so he got technical, but the player for Arizona State, Adam Miller, he got a flagrant 2 and got ejected for it. And so that was I think the second or third game in a row that Arizona State's had a player get ejected.
Yep, it's the third.
So that's saying quite a bit about the state of that program. They are in some dire straits right now, which I was looking at some bracketology today, and they were still listed as like kind of being on the bubble despite being 12-10 and 3-8 in conference. So they must have had a killer non-conference or something like that, because they have really struggled in conference play.
Yeah, that sounds like something that we're going to be investigating after the episode. But
I'll investigate it while you're talking about the bench players.
All right, works for me. To start off with the bench players is Moby Akagaruka, who, once again, I'm not even sure if we call this an evaluation miss, because I don't think that in a perfect world he would be in a role, but he's doing well with the role he has. 13 minutes, 2 of 4 from the field, 4 rebounds, 3 fouls, 1 turnover, a block to 4 total points. Moby was the only bench player to score. CJ Jones, 12 minutes, 0 of 2 from the field, 0 of 1 from 3, 4 fouls, 1 steal. And then David Castillo, 3 minutes, and no stats registered. So was it? I don't remember if it was CJ or Max Jones that registered the 6 in the offensive rating. I think it was CJ.
That was CJ, I'm pretty sure.
It's a brutal world out there.
Yeah, things have not been going well for CJ the last several games. I hope he gets things turned around.
Yeah. But all in all, it's another starters day, and I think that's kind of just going to be. I think that's now more or less the winning formula for K-State is to make it a starters game.
Yeah.
But the next matchups for the K-State men are at KU, it versus KU in Bramlage this Saturday. Michael Beasley will be in attendance, and the next Tuesday up against Arizona again in Manhattan. So a massive 2-game stretch for K-State, who somehow have kept a tournament chance on life support after it died.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you didn't mention it, I was going to say, like, they have genuinely resurrected their chances from 0% to, like, 1.5%. So the chances are still horrible, but, like, I do think they genuinely were at 0% there for a while back when we were 7-11. And I still don't think that it's unlikely that we make it at large. But if we keep playing the way that we're playing, which I don't know if that's sustainable, then like we have a shot. And I also did look, Arizona State is listed in the next category by Joe Lenardi because he has first 4 out, next 4 out, and then he has like a extra like participation trophy list of 4 teams that are after the next 4 out, and Arizona State is the first team in that list. So I think they were in the next 4 out until we beat them. Which I also looked at their non-conference slate, and the most impressive game that they had was an 8-point loss at Gonzaga. And their best win on the year was at West Virginia. They won by 8. But West Virginia's kind of been on a bit of a downslide recently. Like they're 14-8 now, and they've lost 4 of their last 5 since winning against Iowa State. So it's not a bad win. I mean, there's no bad wins, but it's not like a vaunted incredible win. And then one more thing I wanted to mention about this game from the K-State men's basketball account. They mentioned this the 16-point deficit overcome in this Arizona State game to win. It was the largest ever comeback in a conference road game, and the second largest overall comeback behind a 17-point deficit overcome at Cal back in 1995. Largest ever conference comeback, which is not something that I've heard get mentioned too much in the dialogue about this game. I think it's because the comeback happened so early because we were down 18-2, then we led at half. So the comeback was already done by halftime. So it didn't really feel like much of a comeback.
It was just a part of the game at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is just one of those victories that you have to get and then hope you can keep building on it. Because if they do keep building on it and they do get that momentum, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think an at-large bid is in the question unless we like can win out in the – oh, no, I've said the F word. Unless we win out like towards the very end of the year. But
yeah, we're going to have to get pretty close to winning out, I think. I think we can afford 1, maybe 2 losses, depending on what we do in Kansas City in the Big 12 tournament. But, I mean, this obviously would not matter if we had, beat Drake, if we had beat Wichita State, if we didn't choke against TCU, if we didn't let ourselves get blown out against a bad Oklahoma State team. If all those bad things didn't happen, then we'd have way more margin for error. But we have put ourselves in this situation, but if nothing else, it will make for an interesting finish to the season, even if we could have gotten there much more easily.
And if half of those bad things don't happen, we're probably
Yeah.
pretty comfortably in the conversation.
Yes. I think you're correct. But regardless, this stretch of basketball has still been really fun. And massive game against KU. Of course, KU blew out Iowa State right after we did. But this is a beatable KU team. It's still KU, though. Bill Self, I think, always is trying a little bit extra for K-State, it feels like, particularly in Allen. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll be watching. I may have to split screen at one point because K-State KU starts Saturday at 1. K-State Oklahoma State women's basketball starts at 2 on Saturday. So there's going to be some overlap there. But you can split screen on ESPN Plus. No excuses.
No excuses. But you have any final notes before we sign off?
I'm glad that we can have fun talking about both the basketball teams for the first time all year.
Yeah, good Lord. But thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. If you want to follow or contact the show, you can follow us just about anywhere at Aggieville Alleycats. And if you want to email us, we're AggievilleAlleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I am at ACEdwards00.
I am at Connor Bouncor, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to check out the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store with the link found in our podcast and Twitter bios. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.